guys, Angela here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to another sit down Sunday where we chit chat about all the things, mostly about things that y'all ask me on TikTok or in the comments on here, and I'm just pillaging y'all ideas and making videos about them. This week we're going to be talking about career. If you saw the thumbnail, then you already know what the video is about. More specifically, we're going to be talking about my career, right? You know that I like to talk about things from personal experience, from a personal perspective, and if it helps you, you take that, you leave what doesn't work for you. I don't like giving advice, even about stuff like careers, because I think, you know what I'm saying, there is a myriad of ways to get to where you're trying to go, and not everybody wants the same thing, yada yada yada, all that type of stuff. But you know, I have people that follow me on the internet that are a decade younger than me, some people 15 years younger than me. I think my analytics show that my biggest audience is between 25 and 35, and then I have, of course, people that are my age and older that consume my content as well. And so I find a lot of the times I'm being asked, do you have any career advice? Do you take mentees? And I think the perception of me is that I am just this like super accomplished, which I am, right? I'm not downplaying myself in any way. But if you watched my Q&A video, I think maybe 2 Sundays ago, then you heard me say that I am the least career-oriented person that you will meet, right? And I haven't always been that way, but at least for the last decade or so, I just, you know what I'm saying? I'm using what I got to get what I want in corporate America, and that's a paycheck. You know, I'm just trying to get as money as I can get with as little effort. And that doesn't mean, I want to clarify, that doesn't mean that I go to work and I don't give my 100%, because I do. That just means for me, the idea of like climbing a corporate ladder, you know, chasing after promotions, you know, corporate politicking, networking, and all that type of stuff, I could care less about any of that, right? And so that's what I mean about like making as much as I can, doing the least amount of work. Right now, I am a senior employee. I don't have to be more than a senior employee. I don't have to be more than a senior employee or a person that manages projects. So I could be a manager, but it has to be a manager role where there are no like I'm not managing people, right? And you know, that's about as ambitious as you would find me as it relates to like trying to get a title at work and stuff like that. I have friends that are, you know, director level. You know, I got friends that are leading multi-million-dollar like portfolios and stuff like that, and I'm just like, wow, I'm extremely proud and impressed. But it's also a lot of work, and I'm not just talking about the actual physical work that they have to do for the role, just like the mental load, the mental capacity, the physical capacity, right, that I see the people around me have to exert, right, in these big old job titles and roles and stuff that they do. Like, I just simply am not interested in that. I would be interested in those paychecks, but you know, for me, it's not worth taking work home with me on the weekend, or you know, being stressed about work. When I log out of my computer at 5 o'clock, I don't think about that job until I log back in, right? And so for me, I just like me and my sanity and my livelihood, right, better more. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about my personal career. So I graduated undergrad, so I have a bachelor's degree in speech communications, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. Unfortunate for me, I graduated from college in 2007. Kids, in 2007, we were in a recession. I'm talking about a real recession, a bad recession. Wasn't no work, wasn't no jobs. Word to Jeezy, right? It was no work, right? So when I graduated undergrad, I was stocking shelves at Target. I would get up at 6 in the morning, go to Target and stock shelves. And then there was an HR coordinator at my store. She worked directly under the HR manager at our store. She was like, hey, it's a HR coordinating position available in another store. It was in Franklin, Tennessee, so like the suburbs of Nashville. She was like, I think you should apply for it or whatever. And then because I had expressed interest about going into Target's management program, but again, we were in a recession, so they weren't having them. So I was like, I'll just stick around. Maybe I'll be able to get in the management program eventually, right? So she was like, you should apply for this HR coordinating role. That'll get you closer, you know, to HR. The HR manager at that store is actually the district, like HR something or whatever. She was like, so it might help you get into the program. So I'm like, cool, apply for the job. I got it. So I started working as an HR coordinator. Girl, I wasn't making no money. I was probably making $13 an hour, but it was full-time work. It was in an office setting, and it allowed me to start getting some human resource like skills, right? So I was pulling resumes, doing schedules, you know, handling like small payroll tasks, and because my director or my HR manager was like the district something over all the stores, she wasn't a director of like all the stores, but she did something overall. So she would be out of the office a lot. And so things that I was not supposed to be handling as an HR coordinator, like facilitating new hire training, like literally facilitating the entire 8-hour day for new in-store employees, she would be like, do you feel comfortable doing it? I'm like, yeah, that's fine, or whatever, like whatever. And so that's sort of where the idea of training and learning and development kind of stuck in my head, because I was like, actually, I really like this. I like, you know, training customer service skills and onboarding and like all of that type of stuff. So I kind of just like stuck that in the back of my mind. And after about a year and still not being able to find a corporate job, I was like, let me just go back to grad school. So let me just go ahead and get grad school all of the way. So I ended up going to grad school while I was working at Target, and a part of my program was you had to have a full internship or whatever, and it was full time. So I ended up having to leave my role at Target because I had to get a internship. At first I went down part-time and then did my internship. I was interning at Nissan North America. So the North American like corporate office is in Franklin, Tennessee. And so I worked in the, so I ended up doing an internship in the philanthropy and diversity department of Nissan North America. And it was only supposed to be like, you know, a few months. I ended up staying at that internship for like 6 months because I was hoping the role would turn into a job, but they never, you know, they didn't give her the FTE to make it into a job, because I really think if they would have like, and an FTE is like a full-time employee like role. I'm talking to HR speak, but she didn't end up getting approved to bring that role back. So I stayed on to this non-paid internship 3 months over the time frame that I needed to stay, because I was hoping that that role would turn into an actual job. It didn't. So in the midst of that, I had left Target because I was working back on the floor in like it was called soft lines, but like the clothes area back where like the fitting room and stuff is. But it wasn't paying enough. Not that I was really paying bills. Like I lived with my boyfriend, I didn't have to pay any bills or anything like that, but it just wasn't enough like play money. So I ended up going to Ruth Chris part-time while I was doing the internship, and I was in grad school. And then once the internship was over, I was like, I need to make more money. Not granted, but mind you, right, I was still applying for jobs, like looking for jobs, and I just could not get a freaking job. So I was just having to do what I had to do. So within my like last semester of grad school, I ended up getting a job at Verizon. Baby, I was answering phones, getting cussed out by y'all because y'all don't be want to pay y'all bills. I was literally on the phone at Verizon for maybe a year while I was writing my my thesis paper, my master's thesis. And when I graduated with my master's, I was still working at Verizon on the phone, and then I ended up getting a offline position. So it was basically like a process analyst position. It was on a team, it was called like NOS, like the National Offline Support Team or something like that. And basically we were process analysts. So we would work on the back end to like test new processes. One that always comes to mind is when when Verizon first got that chat feature, like you could like chat in with an agent instead of calling on the phone. My team actually tested that feature before it was rolled out out as like a real business process. So, you know, we would do all of that on the back end, report, you know, anomalies, like system anomalies, like this didn't work, this didn't, you know, this process, it broke here, we may need to, you know, that type of stuff. And so it would require you to put together like presentations or just like present in front of leadership and stuff like that. And that took me back. I was like, oh, that's that learning, you know, training, you know, corporate training, the you know, that type of work. And I was like, maybe I should like look into like, how do I get into that? So I worked on that offline team for maybe another year and a half. But in that time, I had been having conversations with, you know, just my college friends and stuff. And, you know, we were talking about career and all that stuff. Because back then I was very like career oriented. Like, you know, I need to, by that time I was maybe 25 and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so behind. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends who was in HR, and I was telling her how I wanted to go into corporate training, like learning and development, you know, I wanted to facilitate training, whatever the case may be. And one day she called me and she was like, hey, I have a role, because like I said, she was a HR coordinator. She had just got on as like an HR manager or something like that for a government project. And she was like, I have a training position open. And she was like, I think you should apply for it. Now, I had sort of guerrilla styled my skills. So if I could give any advice in this, right, this is just a story time, but if I can give any advice, it's if the skills aren't readily available for you, like if you can't find a job that, you know, has the skills in, you know, the job title, girl, find a way to get those skills. So anytime I had the opportunity to create a deck, anytime I had the opportunity to present, anytime I had the opportunity to help like train people, like, you know, when we would roll out new processes at Verizon and they would need floor walkers or people to help train people, or when they were low on managers and they needed people to take escalated calls, like I was always jumping at the opportunity to be in some sort of like facilitator, like teacher role. And those are the skills, when my friend called me, those are the skills that I put on my resume, sent it over to her. She did her 1, 2, and she was like, I can get you the interview, but you're gonna have to get yourself the job, right? So I always joke and call myself a Nepo friend, because my career literally started because I had a friend who listened to me when I said, this is what I want to do. And when she got an opportunity and there was another opportunity that fit what I wanted to do, she pulled me along with her. And that's how I started working in learning and development. And so I started off in what I call like classroom training, just very like rudimentary training. It was a call center of sorts or whatever, and you do the 4-week training. You stand in front of the class, you create the deck, you train from the deck, then they go out to the floor for another 4 weeks and you gotta, you know, do, you know, floor training. So I spent about a year doing that, and then I moved into a more of like a technical writing, curriculum writing role, where I, you know, did a lot of technical writing on like standard operating procedures, but I was also writing and updating curriculum for the trainers, because now I was out of the classroom, as I call it, and I was doing all of the like curriculum writing and all of that type of stuff. So I did that for like another year and a half, and then I moved to Chicago. I gave it all up to move to Chicago. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Eventually I found a role in Chicago that was also learning development. So from then on, I think that was maybe like I think I got my first learning and development like training role in 2013 or 14. So I would say like 2013. So it took me almost 7 years from the year that I graduated undergrad to get a job, to get my first like real professional job. It took a long time. Like I said, I just sort of like guerrilla styled my way through getting the skills I needed to get that job, because it was no jobs like at all. And I had already went back to grad school. I'm like, what else am I supposed to do other than find a way to get the skills that I need to do a job and to make money. So again, if I have to give you any piece of advice, that's gonna be my piece of advice. If the opportunities aren't there, make them, create them, get creative. So for the last 10 years, I've been moving between like learning and development and like business app training. So I worked at the YMCA of Metro Chicago. That was more like learning and development, like people development training, so HR focused. I moved to University of Chicago where I worked first in business apps under HR. So I trained like some Workday functions under HR technically, but it was like business apps training. And then I moved within University of Chicago to research administration. You know, University of Chicago is a big research school. And that was another time where someone saw in me, this was the third time actually, where someone saw something in me and they gave me a hand up, right? When I was at Target, the HR coordinator at my store was like, hey, I know of this job, you should apply. My friend, when she got her opportunity, she saw an opportunity for me. She said, hey, I got this job. This time I was doing some, my department at the University of Chicago had like lent me out to another department because they didn't have any like training professionals within the department, and they were rolling out like a new system, like a proprietary system. It was the research admin department. University of Chicago is a research school. And so they were rolling out this new system. They didn't have anybody to do any building like curriculum, tip sheets, you know, do any training facilitations, any of that. And so I went down from my department for a few months to help them get together before they like get all of their like learning materials and, you know, sort of like help them scope their what training was going to look like for that department, and get all of that together. And after that was done and they went live with their system and all of that, the director came to me and was like, hey, like, if I created this role in my department and I could get approval for it, would you want to work the role? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she hit me up maybe like 3 weeks later, like, I was able to get the role approved. You would have to apply because, I mean, legally we have to post a role, but like, the job is yours. And within a month, I was in shared services to research administration within the University of Chicago. And I was able to sort of like build that department, like not build the department, but build like training in that department, like what it's going to look like. I have no clue what it looks like now, but like sort of get the ball rolling. I did that for maybe like a year and a half before I ended up leaving during the pandemic because the jobs were plenty and I wanted to take advantage of the job. So I'm in the job that I'm in now. And now I'm back doing learning, training, development, instructional design on the business apps side. So I support 2 business applications within my organization. So that's my career trajectory until now. If you're not new here, then you know that I am planning a move to Washington, D.C. in October. So I find myself at a pivot as it relates to my career right now because I am entering the job market for the first time without somebody saying, here's a job for you. Well, technically the job that I have now, I got it without somebody saying, here's a job for you. But that was what, I started that job in like 2021, 2022? It was 2021 or 2022? I think it was 2021. I can't even fucking remember. I think it was 2021 or 2022. But I find myself back in a position where I am about to enter the job market, and people make the job market sound so scary right now. And so I'm just like, ooh, I've always had like a hand up finding a job, or in the instance of the job that I had now, we were in a pandemic, the jobs were plenty. So like, I wasn't even really looking for a job. I just started applying out and the opportunity presented itself, so I took it. But this is the first time that I'm looking for a job and I really need to find a new job, right? And I would love to keep the job that I have now. I'm 100% remote, but you have to be in Chicago to work the job. Otherwise, I would just take the job with me. So what am I looking for in this current job search? I would like for the role to either be in like public service or nonprofit. So it could be higher education, it could be healthcare. I'm gonna stay away from government. Before January, I would have said government, but I'm gonna stay away from government. But I would love for it to be in those sectors because they fulfill the requirements for the public service loan forgiveness plan, and I am so close to it being like done and fulfilled. However, I have also resolved with myself that I am going to apply for roles outside of those requirements because I feel like I am being held back because now the program is in limbo, and you know, I am just tired of like limiting my options to try to meet this goal. I know it's been 7, almost 8 years. I lost a year, so take it back to 7 because we've been on pause for almost a year now because right? And so I would have spent the last 8 years making a lot less than what I could be making, honestly, right? So I have been in higher education, I've been in healthcare, I've been in nonprofit for the last 8 years or so. Definitely not making as much as I could be making. Like even just now looking at roles to apply for in higher education or, you know, healthcare or a nonprofit versus looking at like a Northrop Grumman. I was looking at a role there the other, like that is literally exactly what I do. At least on the low end, $20,000 more than what, you know what I'm saying, the low end is for some of these like hospitals and stuff like that. And so I have really been telling myself, okay, making less money than what your skills, your education, all of that commands is a means to an end to get these loans paid off. Now I'm at the point where I don't give a fuck. Like I don't care. Like as long as I owe y'all, y'all will never be broke. Tell me how much I owe y'all every month and I will give you your money. But I want my coins. Like I want to be making what I deserve to be making. Like it just is what it is. Now if I wanted to like go into management, manage people, be a director, I could probably, you know, command more money, but I won't do that. I want to do that. Not when I can go corporate, be a senior employee, maybe a manager role where I'm managing projects and not people, and make what I come. And don't get me wrong, I make good money. I make good money, right? But I could be making more money. I could be making more money. And so that's sort of a crossroads that I'm at. So I am looking for both. If I find a job that fulfills the public service loan forgiveness requirements, splendid. If I don't, then I owe them people money every month, and you know, I'll just have to give them people their money every month. I am also looking to go back like people facing, right? So like I said, I am working on business apps right now, or on learning and development for business apps. I would like to go back into people, like learning and people development. Just because I am not like super career like oriented, like I'm not focused on climbing a corporate ladder, I do want to feel fulfilled by the work that I'm doing. And not that I don't feel fulfilled, I mean, just by nature of the organization that I work for, even though I'm working on like business apps, you know, just by nature of the organization, I am fulfilled by the work that we do. But I really want to feel like I have a personal impact on people, on what I do, right? I want to be able to like tangibly see the impact for what I do, because that's what makes like showing up to work when I don't want to show up to work better, at least for me, right? Or easier, or you know, some other more eloquent term for that. So I'm looking to go back people facing, hopefully like leadership development, something like that would be ideal. I'm not a person that's super hell-bent on being 100% remote. I don't care if it's a hybrid schedule. I don't even care if I have to go into the office. I was 100% remote before 100% remote was a thing. Before, when I moved to Chicago, I was 100% remote. My job was in Virginia. Well, the headquarters was in Virginia. The office that I supported was in Nashville, and I was in Chicago. So like, you know, I was remote before the girls were remote, right? And so I'm not hell-bent on being 100% remote or anything like that. So I'm open to like a hybrid schedule. I'm open to being in the office. You know, it just is what it is. tend to be one of those people that enjoys my commute, like enjoys, you know, my office routine and all that type of stuff. I miss it. I like it just is what it is. I know people are like, girl, what? I personally do. Because that was a big part of my like socialization, especially here in Chicago where I have these many friends. And so that socialization has been taken away from me for like the last 4 years. And so yeah, when I have opportunities to go to the office, I'd be sprinting to the office. Do you hear me? So anyway, that is the story of my career, and hopefully that helps put into perspective why I say stuff like I am the least career like oriented person that you know. You know, I did start very early on in my career having to be audacious, like I said, having to guerrilla style skills. I did start my career very ambitious, you know, very do whatever I need to do to get the skills that I need to get, because I had to. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I wanted to, but also I had to because of the time and the nature of the economy and all that type of stuff. But as I got older, like if you know me, like much of everything else, my quality of life, how I feel at work, like all of that stuff is way more. I don't care about money if it means that I am suffering, right? As I am doing the job, I am unhappy. I am working during the weekend. I'm working, you know, burning the midnight oil. Like, you know, I am working with people that don't respect me. You know, I don't feel like I'm doing meaningful work. Like, you know, I'm not fulfilled. Like, no amount of dollars is that important to me, right? And so that's sort of been my philosophy over the last almost decade now. And so yeah, so anyway, that's it. That's all about my career. Like I said, I'm entering the job market. I just dipped my toe in it. Wish me luck, cross your fingers for me, all of the things. And I won't tell y'all where my job is, but I will let y'all know if and when we have some success. But I would appreciate your, you know, good looks and your prayers if you're a praying person and all of that. And I'll keep y'all abreast on what's going on, and I'll talk to y'all in the next video. Bye.